I'm not going to leave you in suspense for another week. We're going to show you the remainder of this interview with my mother, Dorothy Burgess. I hope you enjoyed the first segment, but in part two, we'll continue to talk about building a legacy for your family and the legacy and the role of education in building a legacy. So in part one, we talked about some of the early years of my life, the fact that my mother came home, stayed with me for the first 9 years before she went back to start working, even though I was in school. But in this second part, we'll talk about some of the decisions that she made to be different. And even from raising our family, maybe different from the status quo at that time, as well as what does legacy really mean? So that's something that I want you to think about and ponder on as you listen to the second part of this interview. If you have not listened to the first interview, go back and listen to it. I think it was really good. I'm glad to be able to really just capture these moments. But thank you for everyone who continues to support this podcast. Be blessed and enjoy this episode.
So you mentioned being first generation and having to learn lessons on your own. Same thing with medicine. Did I really know what becoming a doctor entailed? Not really. Definitely with the medical school and the residency and the fellowship and all the moving around early on. And then you think you arrived when you finish, and it's more tests and it's more moving. And, we had to overcome a lot of obstacles. I had to overcome a lot of obstacles. You mentioned being a great reader. I never wanted to read. I would always look for the cliff notes,
right,
or whatever I could do to get out of reading. If I had one thing to do again, it would be a better reader, because reading and comprehension with standardized tests and everything else makes your life a lot easier.
Sure.
That was a struggle for me. And then, going through medical school exams and residency exams and then board exams, those were obstacles that it took me sometimes several times to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think it was the work ethic that I learned as a kid, these long days and not wanting to go back and, just push forward, got to keep going, that allowed me to get over that.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then you start your career and, the first job didn't work out, and then got a family. So, met Maisha in medical school. While I was finishing medical school, starting internship, she was finishing dental school. Soon after, we started a family while still going through residency. The grandkids that you prayed for.
Right.
But yeah, so now we have a family and moving around. So it was tough. And two professionals trying to balance careers and, just having to really learn life as we went. And that was one real reason why I started the podcast, because I would look around and see so many people knowing things and I'm still trying to learn them. And I felt like I shouldn't be like that. We're all doctors. And why haven't I heard about some of these conversations that have been happening in other households since, infancy?
And you helped a lot of people with that kind of town hall meeting, the talk session COVID. You did during COVID. That helped a lot of people because we had a lot of questions. And of course, Thomas, my husband, Thomas, your dad, we had a bout with COVID that was pretty serious. So we had that Delta virus.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so there were a lot of questions because we didn't know, nobody really knew what was going on. And so from those town hall sessions, a lot of information was distributed to people that we had really no resources. We didn't know where to go for information or who to ask or anything. And it was, people were kind of tipping around it because I think lack of knowledge was making people be more quiet about it because they didn't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I am really proud of several things with you and Tommy, and that is work ethic. If a job needed to be done, you'll figure out how to do it. If you didn't know how to do it at first, you're not one to just give up easily. Both of you are guys that work hard and you try your very best to make things happen. So I am very proud of that. The way you got your work ethic, because your dad, sometimes I used to question it, but I'm glad that he pushed you guys the way he did, because I see in both of you now a work ethic that is here to stay. It's something that stuck with you. And I see it as you make things happen with your kids. You may have to be at work, but you're going to try to be at their practices, their games, or whatever they have to be. You support your family, and that I'm proud of. And Tommy's the same way, hard worker. Both of you guys do whatever it takes to make ends meet. And I'm proud of both of you for that.
Yeah, I think one blessing that I have is that when I see a problem, I start thinking about a solution versus many times people will see a problem and you start complaining or excuses or whatever. But my mind always tends to go to being a solution based. Maybe that's kind of the surgeon mindset, but I think that also comes from having to problem solve and having to go through so many things to get to this point in my career.
And a lot like your dad, he was never afraid of any challenge. No matter how bad the situation was, if he bought an old house and I'm thinking, you need to just let that one go. He's like, no, it's got good structure to it. I'm going to make it work. And he would get in there and make it work.
Right.
It was never easy, but he would make it happen. And he showed you guys how to step by step make things happen, work it out. He was never one to try to take a problem from you and solve it for you, like figure it out. And I think that figuring it out it's gone a long way with making you the person that you are today.
Yeah. So it's funny that part of my motivation for moving away, becoming a doctor, was trying to escape the being a landlord and doing a lot of the grunt work. And it's funny now that I have that, I'm starting to circle back around to real estate.
Right.
Things of
that
that
was
nature.
funny.
I figured y'all get a good laugh out of that because those are things that I had definitely didn't want to have a part of early on. So
when you first told us about your interest in real estate, we laughed because like that was like you said, that was what you were running from as a younger person. You like, I'm not doing this hard work. This is something I'm not interested in. I want a clean job. I want a job that makes more money.
Well, what he said was hard work or it's education.
Right.
But he had the point of education doesn't keep you from hard work.
No, it doesn't.
And I think that's, if you have a good mix of both, that's what really makes you successful.
Right.
But yeah.
He liked to say that he has a lot of common sense.
Right.
And so he has to work harder. But even with an education, you still have to work harder.
You definitely got to work.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you raised us, but what's the difference in raising sons versus being a nana, being a grandmother?
A lot of difference. Now I have more patience because I was task oriented when you and Tommy were growing up. We get up in the morning, we got to get to school on time, get to work on time, we got to get homework, we got to get all this routine stuff done. But with the grandchildren, I retired. I just love being with them, baking for them, cooking for them, doing all the stuff that they want me to do. And when I can come to the activities, it's a whole different perspective on child raising when you've got your grandchildren. Because the parents have the real responsibility.
Right.
And grandparents, we just come and love on them and share with them and go on vacation with them and enjoy that kind of life, just the kind of carefree life. So with the grandchildren, it's more about loving and patience and relaxing. With the children, it's more the grind. You got to get it done by a certain time and you got to get to bed and get you rested. All of these things. So I thoroughly love being a grandparent. I do. I used to tell people years before I even knew I had any grandchildren on the way, I had prayed for children. I had a vision. And I was sitting on the porch and my grandchildren were reading to me. And I just held on to that vision until I finally got some grandchildren, which I'm thoroughly happy to have.
Yeah. So, we heard that story about the sitting on the porch many times. Like she said, you used to tell her that one every time you got on the phone. But no, it's definitely a difference of being able to, I don't know what that side looks like, but raising kids is, I think, is one of the greatest experiences. Have no pamphlets on it. Well, you do have some pamphlets, but I don't think they apply. You have to learn on the job. But it's one of the most gratifying things that I do. And I'm always trying to be present, no matter what's going on, no matter how busy I am. If I have to travel, I'm always trying to be here because I know that this time is so limited. I have really 18 to 20 years with the kids, and then you have to chase them down for the rest of your life.
That's exactly.
So if you don't have a foundation now, you can forget about it later.
Oh, yeah. So that is true. That is true. We always try to spend quality time with you guys. You always wanted baseball, and we said,
right.
Nope, we're going to have summers off.
Baseball and drums.
Okay. Yeah, you wanted drums, and you said you still have trauma about that. But you know what? I didn't want the noise with the drums, but we wanted I wanted to have summers off so we could go camping, go vacation, spend time together as a family. Because during the school year, it was just, I'm working, you guys are going to school and your activities. We had to find time to be together as a family. But then I said, my husband and I both said that summers were going to be our time for vacationing, camping, or whatever we wanted to do as a family. And I'm glad we did that because that gave us time to watch you grow and spend time with you and share. So I wouldn't change anything for that. Vacation time together, especially camping, because we had lots of outdoor time together.
Right.
And roasting marshmallows and doing all the fun things that just the simple things in life, but just spending time together as a family.
Yeah. So I know that a lot of people didn't really understand why y'all did so much for the kids. Why, you raised them, you got them into college. Why are you still trying to help support them during college? Why are you saving money to help pay for their college education? Many people didn't really understand some of the forward thinking that you and Dad had when it came to us.
Mm-hmm.
So explain that a little bit.
For us, we always talked about our family didn't leave a legacy except for their character. They didn't have resources and finances to leave for us. They just didn't have it. So we watched other people's kids got a better start in life because they were already financially further down the road when they got out of school. They would graduate without having a debt over their head. And so they could go ahead with their career where most of us, like years down the road, still paying college debt. So we decided that we were going to give you and Tommy a 4-year education free. We didn't want you to have any debt over your head when you got out of school. So we were going to provide housing, transportation, finances for your education. So when you if you decided to go further with your education after the undergrad, that you would have a better start. You wouldn't have this huge debt over your head. So we worked hard, and that's why we got into real estate. So we could have some means to help because just our jobs was not enough. So we got into real estate so that we could help to finance your education, your living, and your living arrangements as well as your transportation. So we did that. And then when the grandkids came along, we said, well, we want to leave a heritage for the grandchildren. We want them to have something as well. So that's when we started putting a little nest egg aside for the grandchildren because we knew that the primary responsibility is the parents. But as grandparents, we felt like if you're blessed to do so, you need to leave something to the grands as well.
Yeah.
That's why we did that. And I know that people don't always agree with that thinking, but that's just been our mindset because we've always wondered why some people were able to get ahead faster than others. And one of the reasons we found out was because they had a head start.
Sure.
As healthcare providers, we spend a large portion of our lives focused on our training as well as taking care of other individuals. But I'm calling a timeout because life can change in an instant. We know it's difficult to fathom that a sudden illness, injury, or death could put you and your family in a devastating financial situation. But that's where Dr. Stephanie Pearson and her unique team of advisors at Pearson Ravitz come into play. They focus on empowering physicians like yourself to protect your most valuable asset, your income, and life's most important people, your family. So go to PearsonRavitz.com to make sure that you are protected today.
Yeah, everybody doesn't have the same start line.
Right.
And, as a people still, African Americans, we're still trying to get to the point where we can have a positive network. It's crazy to think that a lot of people still have a negative network, meaning that they still have more debt than they have assets.
Yes.
And a lot of that is generational, is not having land, not having housing, not having mortgages, not having being able to pass along things, not being able to, many times we have people die and we're trying to collect money versus people die and they pass along inheritance to the next generation. So I feel like education is one of the most tried and true ways to do that. Many times if you have a little bit more, I think you can be a little more free, but I think that's why education was really pushed so much early on with us.
And another thing was looked at was the fact that my ancestors had a lot of land.
Yeah.
And had we been able to inherit some of the land
Prime
they
land.
had. Prime land, yes. If we had been able to inherit that, we could have been so much further down the road and much better off. But a lot of it was lost through mismanagement and poor planning. And so we wanted to not go that same way. If we had an opportunity to do better with what we were blessed with, we wanted to use it more wisely.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So on Time Out with Sports Doctor, this is your final timeout. So thank you, number one, for coming on. I wanted to do it in person and I wanted to have it a certain way. That's one reason why I was so delayed. But at the same time, I should have done this years ago. But here we are. So, just talking about legacy, Big Daddy talked about legacy a lot. Dad always talks about legacy a lot. And now Maisha and I, we're trying to do things for our kids and grandchildren so that we can pass along not only the legacy from kind of a family history standpoint, but from a financial standpoint as well. So what does legacy mean to you? When you hear that word, what does legacy mean?
Legacy to me means the life that I live and the character that I demonstrate, as well as assets that I can leave behind for the next generation. To me, it's always been important to have family together. So all of my married life, I was always proactive in pulling together our family reunion, having just celebration days, like my grandchildren have picked Easter for celebration, but having a celebration and just wanting to not anybody be left out because they couldn't bring something or support it in some way. I just wanted to be able to have family come together, learn each other's habits and ways, and get to share as a family. That's why I work so hard to keep my family together. And just recently, in the last, maybe 5 years, I've asked the next generation to take over having family reunions, having a fun time together, day out, something where the family comes together. Legacy for me has a deeper meaning than just assets. It has to do with passing along the ideals that you had for a family, like ways and means to keep us together. If it's nothing but coming together for a hot dog supper or coming together for a soup day, just having that time together. I want my grandchildren to get to know their cousin the way it was when I grew up. All of us lived in the same neighborhood.
Right.
So all of our cousins knew each other. We spent time together. We had a strong bond. That's the kind of bond I want to leave behind for the next generation. I want the generation of grandchildren and cousins to spend quality time together, laughing, having fun, being together. If it's nothing but a weekend now and then, I just don't want, because everybody lives far away now.
Right.
Like I said, we live in the same neighborhood, but now people are 5, 6, 10 hours away from each other. I want us to come together and never forget to come together and bond as a family, because the bond of a family is so strong and so important. Because I always say that if you don't have God and family in your life, you don't have a life. Because those are two sources that can help you to get through pretty much anything. If you just need somebody to talk to, or you just need somebody to say, I love you, or spend some time with you, that is a legacy I want to leave behind. A strong bond for family.
Yeah. And growing up, you were always, or our house was always like Grand Central Station.
Yes.
If it was nothing else, from kids coming over to play daily, or knowing like, okay, we're going to Dot's house for Thanksgiving, Christmas, or, even if we're going to separate places, we're going to all end up at your house. And it was always open.
Yeah.
It was people just roll up, park, and knock. It wasn't a call, hey, can we come over?
Yeah.
The door was already open. The invitation was always there. So I think we do the same thing. We want to try to keep family together, if it's getting the kids together to play or whatever, because it is different now when everybody's not on the same street.
Right. And I used to wonder why my mom she had 13 kids, and I would say, why do you let all these other kids come over here and hang out? Cousins, neighbors. And she said, they don't bother me. I like having family around. Well, when my mom passed away, my house became that central hub where even the cousins that have moved away now, they said, if we want to fight, we want to meet the rest of the family, we always come to your house because we know that eventually during the holiday, everybody's going to end up at your house. And at first I thought, when I was a little kid and my mom used to do that, I thought, how weird. Why do people hang out at our house? But it's because I felt like it was a place they felt free and loved and they could come and just be themselves. So my house became, after my mom passed away, my house became the house where everybody just, they knew they could stop by at any time, especially during holidays. And I would always going to have food to eat, always going to be, you're welcome. They come in, hang out. And that's what I want someone in the next generation to take. Your house or you're the family that says, hey, we're going to get together. Everybody's going to hang out at this central location because that bond that you get from family is lasting. That's something that goes with you a lifetime. So as long as I'm able to do that, I will always have gatherings where the family can come. Because now it's natural to me. I've been doing that for so many years. I feel strange and we don't get together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for, always being there, always praying, always late nights and whatever, checking in, making sure I'm fine, studying for exams, giving me those wake up calls. It always mattered and it always meant a lot. And everybody, I don't take it for granted because it's not a given that everybody has a supportive mother or that everybody even has a relationship with their mom. So
funny you said that. They always say, you got mama's voice. But I said, you know what? That's not bad because it's just that I felt a connection that if I could just know where you were, if I could just pick up the phone and call you or Tommy and see how you're doing and hear your voice, that was right. It's just that I wanted to know that you were okay. Did you need anything? How's life going? And I always would say to the kids, I may not know exactly what you're going through because I don't know you feel, but I can listen. So, and that's the same thing I tell the young people now. I may not can identify with your problem, but I can listen to you. Mm-hmm. So to me, that means a lot. I often, what it would have been like if I had had somebody that just really could be that role model that I want. But I did get the most valuable thing in life. I had a mom that loved us and she was there for us. So that's what I want to pass on to my next generation.
And you have, and you will. Well, thank you very much. This has been special as I knew it would be. Any final thoughts?
Yes. Let's get ready for the next family reunion.
All right.
Thanks so much for having me on. And I'm glad that we had this time together to talk and reminisce about the past because it just does my heart good to remember because some things kind of slip away.
Right.
And then you can bring back the things that I've forgotten. So I've really enjoyed our session.
All right. Well, thank you for you've been a part of the podcast since the beginning. Yeah. Thank you for all the support.
You're welcome.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then please leave a 5-star review. And if you haven't done so, subscribe so you continue to get the updated episodes. Until later, peace.
Hey, TimeOut with the SportsDr. Keep our head right in the game. We ain't never stopping. You are now tuned in. Trust you don't want to miss. This is where life, sports, and medicine